In a dimly lit Texas tavern, an unassuming elderly gentleman was on the verge of being tested. What started as a lively evening of drinks and billiards grew intensely grave when a boastful group of combatants invaded the establishment, headed by the recent MMA title holder, eager for a show. Chuck Norris wasn't an ordinary patron. Over many years he had established himself as a karate expert, military commando, and film icon recognized globally for his accuracy, self-control and skill in concluding battles swiftly. When Tyler, the Titan, Kane issued his dare, he was unaware he was courting embarrassment from someone who embodied expertise in every aspect. Chuck didn't stand up with flair. He stood with the steady certainty of an approaching tempest. Through one exact reply, he would spark an encounter that extended well past the tavern's confines. What originated as an intoxicated show of vanity would evolve into a widespread tale, and Rose's Roadhouse would forever change once one brawler discovered in 3 indelible moments the contrast between appearing powerful and truly possessing power. Before we continue the tale, share with us your location. And if this narrative resonates with you, ensure you're following us, as I've prepared something particularly unique for tomorrow. The glowing sign beyond Rose's Roadhouse blinked against the dark Texas night, projecting crimson and azure hues that shifted over the pebbled lot. Trucks and weathered cars clustered beneath the immense starry expanse, their surfaces chilling in the late-hour wind. Within, twangy tunes played softly from a vintage music machine, barely heard under the soft tap of cue balls and the hum of evening chats. Rosa Delgado polished the counter with skilled routine, her seasoned fingers tracing quick loops. Owning this spot for 27 years had sharpened her ability to gauge the atmosphere better than most decipher texts. This evening appeared routine. A September Thursday when the swelter eased its hold on the Texas flatlands, allowing folks to relax once more. Her steady customers filled their habitual places. Old Joe and his fellow vets bent over the billiards set up in the nook. Several haulers cradled brews at various spots, and a couple of pairs moved gently to George Strait's melody about the state. At the bar's distant edge sat a solitary figure, his demeanor so modest that few drinkers even registered him. Chuck Norris made no effort to conceal himself. He just existed without seeking notice. Clad in a basic colored top and denim, he maintained impeccable alignment, drinking herbal brew from a cup Rosa had topped off 20 minutes prior. No liquor, merely tea. His gaze sharp yet serene, sometimes swept the area with mild curiosity. Refill needed. Chuck? Rosa inquired, her tone soft so only he caught it. He grinned, a sincere expression that lined his eye edges, and dipped his head once. Appreciate it, Rosa. How's Miguel's knee faring? Improved after following your stretch suggestions. The physician was amazed at the quick healing. She added steaming liquid over a new sachet. You're the sole celebrity I know who recalls folks' names and their issues. Chuck's grin widened a bit as he cupped the heated vessel. Not a star, just lived long enough. Rosa was set to reply when the entrance slammed wide, hitting the barrier with force enough to shake the mounted images of area rodeo winners. The tunes appeared to waver as faces pivoted to the disturbance. 5 males stepped in, or more accurately, 4 tailed while 1 paraded ahead. The front men sported stylish pants and a fitted dark shirt highlighting limbs adorned with intricate ink. His cropped locks accentuated a blocky chin and the sort of sturdy neck earned through intense labor. A recent mark swelled near his right brow, somewhat concealed by a strip bandage. Tyler the Titan Kane had shown up, straight from his broadcasted UFC triumph. His companions, 2 massive figures, possibly scrappers, 2 and 2 sharper ones with costly timepieces, followed like satellites around their star. Someone explain why we're in this hole rather than a leaded eclipse. One of the refined guys griped, volume high for all to catch. Because, Tyler declared, extending his limbs broadly, I was raised in spots like this, and as champ, I want all to witness a genuine brawler. His speech held a rehearsed dramatic edge. As though hidden lenses still captured it, Rosa's look grew stern. Greetings at the Roadhouse. Stay respectful and you're welcome. Tyler's focus swung to her, his mouth twisting into a blend of grin and smirk. Sure thing, ma'am. He stretched the courtesy with overdone politeness verging on ridicule. Then he pivoted to inspect his viewers. Old Joe and his pals had halted their match, sticks gripped still as they evaluated the arrivals with tired looks of those familiar with conflict's arrival. Joe's gaze tightened, the creases around deepening in distaste. "What you staring at, old-timer?" Tyler shouted. Never witnessed an actual title holder. One of Tyler's group, a broad-necked fellow with short hair, chuckled excessively. "Perhaps they require a display. Appreciate it." Old Joe stayed silent. He merely resumed facing the billiards, aiming his strike with intentional care. "Exactly," Tyler sneered. "Stick to your affairs." The youthful server Maria met Rosa's glance and lifted a brow. Rosa offered a nearly unseen head shake, a wordless directive to remain composed and continue pouring. "Initial drinks on me," Tyler proclaimed to his band as they took a big spot near the room's middle. "Damn, initial drinks on me for all." He drew a fat cash holder and stripped several large notes, smacking them onto the surface. "Does that suffice, darling?" Maria's grin failed to touch her gaze as she gathered the bills. "I'll deliver your orders. What would you like?" "Premium all around," Tyler answered, then spun away, sans awaiting reply, already checking the space for responses to his largesse. A few haulers lifted their vessels in thanks, but most locals stayed reserved, their talks restarting quieter. The vibe had altered, constricted somehow, like before rainfall. Rosa peeked along the counter at Chuck, unmoved. He remained utterly motionless, observing the scene develop with a face showing zero. His brew stayed untouched, vapor curling in fine strands that faded into the smoky atmosphere. Tyler, conversely, started roaming the area like a carnival director, recounting his win specifics to any listener and even non-listeners. "Third period, he figured he trapped me," Tyler bragged, imitating the combat actions. "But I've hunned this fresh sequence." Fake left lowered the arm, then wham. He launched a practice uppercut, slicing the breeze. Nailed him beneath the jaw, out cold. Some customers dipped heads courteously. One hauler, fresher than others, appeared truly awed, posing queries on the method. Motivated, Tyler persisted in his act, shifting from spot to spot. Upon reaching the billiards group, Old Joe was arched over the surface, setting a tough angle strike. "Solid play, Pops," Tyler remarked, nudging the edge just as Joe hit the cue. The strike veered off. Joe rose gradually, his aged features blank as he faced the combatant. For an instant, strain sparked between them. "You aware?" Joe stated softly. "In Vietnam, we had a phrase for guys who required clamor to seem significant." Tyler's gaze constricted. "Yeah, what's that?" "They're typically the initial to drop." Joe's tone was subdued yet firm, his stare unwavering. A strained quiet ensued, shattered only when one of Tyler's band advanced. "You menacing the title holder, geezer." Joe didn't flinch, merely offering insight. "No cost." Tyler glared a bit longer, then erupted into amplified chuckles. "Insight? That's adorable." He faced his mates. "Catch that. We've got a thinker here." He grabbed a cue from the holder and shoved between two of Joe's companions. "Allow me to demonstrate proper technique, Gramps. In the cage or on the table, I'm the title holder still." As he leaned over the surface, executing a fancy prep routine involving spinning the cue like a staff, Old Joe retreated, lightly shaking his head. "He's picking the wrong fight this evening," Joe whispered to his buddy, directing a pointed look to the counter. At the surface, Chuck stayed immobile, his focus now on his brew. But his bearing had subtly altered. A barely noticeable alignment of the back, a minor adjustment in his frame. Not strain precisely, but preparedness. Rosa shifted along the counter to him, topping his warm liquid sans request. "Chuck," she murmured gently, "I can manage this, no need for you to join." Chuck gazed at her, his look kind. "I realize you can, Rosa." His speech was soft yet distinct, like deep calm currents. "I'm merely savoring my brew." But both recognized tranquility had an expiration. The timer counted down with every rowdy guffaw. Each exhibit of Tyler's skill, each instance the young title holder commanded the area with his aura. The tempest wasn't arriving. It was already present, and at its core rested Chuck Norris, serene and static, like a peak that had endured countless gales and would stand firm well beyond this one. Tyler the Titan, Kane commanded the billiards surface with the identical forceful flair he applied in the ring. Each play was a spectacle, more about dominance than accuracy, more about assertion than the activity. His band applauded every made shot as if it were a finishing blow, their tones amplifying as spirits relaxed their inhibitions. "8-ball side pocket," Tyler declared. Though it was an easy play needing no announcement, he smacked the cue with excess power. The dark 8 sped into the hole with a sharp snap, while the cue almost bounded off the edge. One of his mates snagged it airborne with a yell of triumph. "And that," Tyler stated to Old Joe and his pals who'd withdrawn to a close spot is champion play. Old Joe drank his all sans remark, his gaze disclosing nothing. Tyler, displeased with the muted feedback, surveyed the area for stronger crowd response. The Roadhouse had filled more in the last 30 minutes. News circulated that the fresh MMA title holder was present, attracting intrigued residents and some avid supporters. Some sought snapshots, which Tyler allowed with staged generosity, posing and flexing as device flashes brightened the shadowy tavern. "Another set for everyone," he yelled to Maria, who confirmed the request with a stiff dip. As she operated behind the counter, Maria bent nearer to Rosa. "How much longer for this spectacle?" "As long as he's polite," Rosa responded. "Champ or otherwise, his funds work like anyone's." "Polate's pushing it," Maria grumbled, filling spirits into aligned glasses. "You aware he upset Diane to tears?" Inquired if TV scrappers made her spouse seem lacking. Rosa's gaze toughened. "I missed that." She avoided a fuss, exited via the rear. Rosa dipped her head once, storing the detail. "Monitor him. First boundary he breaches, he's gone." But Tyler was already pursuing his next target. Having ruled the billiards and posed for images, he now neared the music selector, browsing options with overdone thought. "What do actual Texans play lately?" He yelled to nobody specific. "This sounds like my granddad's burial." He picked a heavy beat track that boomed through the tavern audio, overwhelming talks and drawing attention. The usual customers swapped looks, some irritated, others accepting. "That's better," Tyler hollered over the rhythm. He started swaying to the tempo, executing a spontaneous practice boxing sequence in the tight area by the selector. His band created a half-ring around him, applauding and urging each complex series of strikes and boots that neared close tables. A mature duo left their spot, tucking funds under their partial beverages and aiming for the exit. Tyler spotted it. "Where you headed?" "Evening's barely begun," he shouted after. But they didn't glance back. Tyler's look flashed with what could be doubt. The initial fracture in his actor's facade before solidifying into rejection. Their mistake, he told his leftover viewers. It was during his routine that Tyler's wandering sight at last settled on the lone shape at the counter's end. Something in the figure's calmness amid the disorder drew his notice. The manner he remained unaffected by the blasting sound. The way he flipped a leaf in his compact volume with leisurely exactness. Tyler's actions slowed. He narrowed his eyes through the faint glow. Realization emerging on his traits. "No chance," he uttered, loud for his band to hear. "No chance." His mates traced his view, puzzlement turning to expanded eyes and prods. "Is that?" "I believe so." Tyler's look changed, astonishment dissolving into the skimming stare of a hunter detecting a chance. His grin extended broad, showing flawless ivory teeth. "Halt the tune," he commanded. One of his guys rushed to the selector, and the booming rhythm suddenly ceased, creating a buzzing hush. In that hush, all faces directed to Tyler, who stood central in the tavern, limbs outstretched like a director demanding focus. "Folks," he proclaimed, his speech reaching every section. "I've just discovered we have a star among us." The mood constricted as customers glanced about. Perplexed, Chuck flipped another leaf in his volume, apparently unaware. "The individual, the folklore, the icon," Tyler went on, his manner laced with staged derision. "Mr. Chuck Norris in person honoring our simple venue." Murmurs spread among the group as heads turned to the counter. Chuck raised his view from his volume, his look impartial as he locked eyes with Tyler across the space. He stayed mute, showed no reaction, merely observed the younger individual with steady, even gaze. "Chuck Norris," Tyler echoed, relishing the title as he advanced toward the counter. "Walker, Texas Ranger. Supreme action figure. At least that's what you were, 2 decades past." His band laughed on signal, trailing Tyler's path as he neared. The other customers cleared way, forming an open road to Chuck's position. Rosa advanced guardingly toward Chuck, but he provided the tiniest head shake, a silent note that he could deal with it. She paused, then withdrew, though her palm shifted under the surface, where she stored a club for crisis. Tyler halted a short distance from Chuck's seat, near enough to tower, but not contact. His bearing exuded bold assurance, torso ahead, head high, balance on his toes. "You know," Tyler stated, his tone set to resonate in the now quiet tavern. "I matured viewing your films. All those lofty boots and spins." He copied an amplified chop, eliciting giggles from his group. "But I always pondered how much was authentic and how much movie illusion." Chuck shut his volume cautiously, saving his spot with a tattered marker. He placed it on the surface and rotated a bit on his seat to confront Tyler straight. Still, he remained silent. Tyler's grin wavered briefly at the absence of reply before reinforcing with more intensity. Silent. Come on, Chuck. All know those film clashes are scripted doubles, lens effects. He bent nearer. Unlike my work, actual combat, actual results. Across the tavern, devices emerged in palms. Lenses pointed at the clash. The current habit of capturing this instant was being saved, would circulate past these barriers no matter the outcome. Preparing and sharing this narrative required much effort from us. So, if you're liking it, join our channel. It supports us greatly. Now resuming the narrative, Chuck's quiet endured, but his gaze stayed on Tyler's features. The stillness grew awkward, and Tyler's group adjusted positions unsure. Hey, one remarked. Perhaps he's too aged to catch you, thanks. This shattered the strain with rough laughs. Tyler, encouraged and new, advanced closer. Is that so, Chuck? Too aged to participate? Or perhaps you recognize the gap between your stuff and mine? Film martial arts versus true battle. He patted the mark over his brow. Notice this, earned it yesterday. Defeating a title holder. Genuine injury. Genuine clash. Chuck's look stayed steady. But something altered in his gaze. Not fury, but an intensifying concentration, like a focus sharpening to clarify a far object perfectly. Maybe he's afraid. Another group member proposed, sparking further laughs. Old Joe's speech sliced through the ridicule from his nearby spot. Kid, you lack awareness of your actions. Tyler's face snapped to Joe. Keep out, Geezer. This concerns me and the icon here. He returned to Chuck. So what say you, Chuck? Care to demonstrate to these folks if you retain it? Or prefer to remain seated, concealing behind your what is that? Tea. Lord. Not a proper beverage. Rosa advanced then, her tolerance clearly wearing. Enough, you've enjoyed yourself. Let him alone. Tyler's gaze tightened at the disruption. Not addressing you, ma'am. Addressing Mr. Film Icon here. He gazed back at Chuck. Well, speechless. Mariah from the counter couldn't hold back anymore. Perhaps he's simply unimpressed. She stated audibly for all. A wave of ooze passed through the watchers and Tyler's features darkened. The veneer of fun ridicule slipped, exposing something firmer below the pride wounded. The actor tested, unimpressed. Tyler restated, his tone lowering to a risky level. Okay, let me provide something impressive. In an abrupt action that surprised those close, Tyler seized an empty vessel from the counter and flung it at the barrier. The crash of breaking glass pierced the space like a shot. How's that? Tyler insisted, facing Chuck again. Impressed now, or must I demonstrate a true brawler personally? The dare lingered, now direct, unavoidable. The tavern held its shared inhale. The strain tangible as all sights locked on Chuck Norris. Gradually, intentionally, Chuck set both palms level on the counter. His actions were leisurely, accurate. A person functioning on his personal schedule. Unaffected by the turmoil nearby, he didn't rise right away, didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took a final drink of his tea, placed the cup down precisely, and only then reconnected with Tyler's stare. When he eventually spoke, his voice was soft, but resonated easily through the hushed space. You've stated your view, son. Just those 5 terms, neither embracing nor refusing the dare. A basic recognition that left Tyler briefly unbalanced. Unsure if dismissed or involved, Tyler bounced back fast, bending nearer. My view. No, I believe you miss my view, elder. My view is that types like you film figures acting tough. You've deceived folks enough. Time for them to view a true brawler. Chuck stayed seated, his look unaltered. Is that you? A true brawler? Something in the plainness of the queries. The serene delivery caused a wave of strain through the observing group. It wasn't aggressive, wasn't irate. Just an honest question that somehow bore more significance than any dare might. Tyler's features reddened. Damn straight, that's me. Got the title to confirm. Chuck dipped his head once as if taking in this data. A title shows you can triumph in bouts. It doesn't create a brawler. The term struck like soft rumble. Various watchers swapped glances, devices still capturing, recording each part of the dialogue. Tyler's poise fractured more. Rise, he ordered. His tone tougher now. Rise and we'll discover the true brawler. At close spots, folks started shifting back, detecting the change from act to real clash. Rosa's grip strengthened on the club below the surface, her fingers paling. Chuck observed Tyler for a prolonged, calculated instant. Then, with the identical intentional serenity marking his every action, he rose. He wasn't lofty. maybe a bit shorter than Tyler. But as he stood, something in his aura appeared to grow, occupying more area than his form should. It wasn't hostility or threat. It was merely aura, the type of anchored firmness from years of training. The tavern grew even quieter. Breaths suspended, eyes expanded. Tyler's band, so loud moments prior, stood rigid, abruptly doubtful. Mariah bent near a patron and murmured, just audible in the silent space, "He has no clue what's coming." Chuck faced Tyler, his bearing neither protective nor offensive, just even. His arms dangled loosely beside, relaxed yet prepared. The gap between seemed loaded with latent force, like atmosphere pre-strike. Tyler, briefly surprised by Chuck's soft assurance, recovered with a dramatic arm wave, opening more area in the tavern's center. Surfaces scraped over the timber floor as customers quickly shifted them, sensing the approach. Nobody objected. Nobody attempted halt. There was a shared grasp that this clash had its own drive. Now a pull drawing all into its path. "Clear some area," Tyler yelled, his tone set to resonate. "Wouldn't wish to harm any bystanders when I instruct the icon here on actual combat." His band dispersed, creating a loose ring defining the makeshift field. Devices showed in almost every grip, capture lights shining in the faint tavern like glow bugs. What occurred next would be kept distributed, eternalized beyond these barriers. Old Joe leaned on the counter, limbs folded over his torso. Unlike the thrilled murmurs among other viewers, his look carried something akin to respect, the expression of someone acknowledging the importance of what's impending. "This won't unfold as he expects," Joe whispered to nobody particular, though nearby heard and swapped looks. Tyler was fully in act mode, lightly springing on his toes, loosening his arms, flexing his fingers. He orbited Chuck, who stayed static at the cleared area's core, observing Tyler with the firm stare of one who'd encountered innumerable foes, finding none especially distinct. "Basic rules," Tyler declared, appealing to the group. "Don't want to injure a senior excessively. So, suggest this first solid contact succeeds." He showed a smug smirk to the viewers. "Shouldn't exceed 10 seconds. Chuck ignored the jibe. He merely tweaked his position subtly. A faint weight change most wouldn't see, but that converted his regular bearing into something grounded and unshakable. Tyler's orbits narrowed, his actions more evident as he persisted his pre-clash habit. He struck the air with test sequences, part display, part real prep. With each, his assurance appeared to expand, nourished by the group's focus and Chuck's ongoing quiet. "You aware?" Tyler remarked, still orbiting. "I always pondered if I'd have the opportunity to challenge someone like you to check if the tails held up." He pretended a strike at Chuck, halting just before. Chuck didn't react, didn't even wink. "Suppose this evening's fortunate for me." From the counter, Mariah observed with tightened eyes. "This seems off," she murmured to Rosa. "Like observing someone step into danger." Rosa's look was serious. Occasionally teachings must be grasped the difficult way. Tyler finished another loop around Chuck, who hadn't shifted from his central position. The younger combatant's tolerance was evidently waning, his actions sharper, more forceful. "Come on, Elder," he provoked. "At minimum, raise your fists. Offer something here." Chuck finally uttered, his tone firm and distinct in the strained hush. "When you're set." 3 basic terms given sans flair or dare. Yet they appeared to resound through the tavern like an assurance. Various viewers adjusted uneasily, detecting the serene surety within. Tyler's look shifted between bewilderment and aggravation. This wasn't developing as envisioned. The icon was meant to be daunted, or at least provoked. Instead, Chuck remained with the unflappable aura of someone who'd encountered this all prior and deemed it ordinary. "When I'm set," Tyler echoed, his tone firming. "I was born set." He ceased orbiting and set his feet, aligning to Chuck. "But if you're too frightened to initiate, I get it. Age precedes appeal, correct?" A few anxious snickers came from the group, but most observed in strained quiet. The vibe had changed from noisy fun to something different. Something heavy with expectation and an increasing feeling they were seeing more than a tavern scrap. Tyler's tolerance finally broke. "Fine, Chuck. Let's view your skills." He advanced with a pro's smoothness, narrowing the gap with trained accuracy. His position was ideal, his fists lifted in correct defense. Despite his flair, he tackled this with his preparation's gravity. A combatant who, under the pride and display, honored his trade's basics. Chuck stayed motionless, observing Tyler's advance with clear, concentrated gaze. He didn't lift his fists, didn't adjust his balance, stayed as is, apparently unready for the impending assault. Tyler unleashed his initial sequence, a testing strike, trailed by a cross, swift but managed, probing Chuck's responses. The actions were smooth and exact, the result of endless training hours. Chuck didn't deflect. He just wasn't present when the strikes reached. With a shift so faint it nearly appeared illusory, he adjusted minimally, letting Tyler's strike pass safely by his face. The cross hit empty as Chuck angled his torso enough to evade touch. Tyler winked in astonishment but rebounded swiftly, pursuing with a bolder sequence. Strike, cross, swing delivered with more purpose. Again Chuck shifted with least effort, each strike encountering only air. A whisper swept the observing group. Tyler's band swapped unsure looks. What the heck? One grumbled. Tyler himself appeared briefly puzzled, but his assurance returned. Evading isn't battling, he shouted for all to hear. Let's see you return something. He advanced more forcefully, reducing the area, launching denser sequences with actual strength now. Each strike was sound technically, the type that had downed rivals in the ring. Yet each mysteriously missed its mark as Chuck shifted with a thrift of motion seeming to challenge physics. It wasn't showy dodge, no extreme bends or turns, no extra action, just exact tiny changes that always positioned him beyond Tyler's grasp, as if he could interpret the younger's plans before Tyler knew them. Annoyance started appearing on Tyler's features, his actions less restrained, more vigorous. His inhales sped, not from fatigue but rising ire. This wasn't the showcase he'd intended. Not the simple control he'd pictured showing his viewers. Hold still and battle, he snarled, charging with a strong right swing. Chuck finally advanced with intent, entering Tyler's defense with smooth accuracy. Before the younger could respond, Chuck placed a palm, not a closed hand, but open lightly on Tyler's torso, right over his core. The contact was mild, nearly polite, but it conveyed a clear signal. I could conclude this at any time. Tyler stiffened, his strike paused halfway, his gaze widening in astonishment at how simply his guard was breached. For a pulse, the pair held that pose, Tyler with limb outstretched, Chuck with palm resting softly over the younger's core. The tavern suspended its shared inhale. Then Chuck withdrew, resuming his impartial position, arms again beside. That's one, he stated softly. Tyler's astonishment turned to rage. That wasn't a contact, he objected, his tone elevating. It wasn't intended to injure you, Chuck answered, his manner factual. But it was solid. Tyler's features darkened deeply. Nonsense, this isn't play tag, this is battling. He loosened his arms, his actions becoming keener, more forceful. Let me demonstrate a real contact's feel. He surged ahead with a scrapper's velocity, delivering a rapid sequence that would have wowed even detractors of his typical flair. Strike, cross, upward swing, ideal form given with his full preparation and ability. Chuck flowed like liquid around rocks. Each strike appeared fated to hit, yet somehow missed its aim. It wasn't that Chuck was quicker. It was that he appeared to grasp the assault's pattern on a basic plane, predicting each action not with opposing velocity, but with placement and timing. The whole tavern observed, entranced. Even those recording lowered devices, too immersed to recall capture. Tyler's band stood open-mouthed, their prior flair swapped for astonished quiet. Lord, one murmured. What is this? Tyler continued his assault, annoyance turning to a sort of frantic resolve. His method started declining as he added more strength to each, trading shape for power, restraint for force. His inhales grew uneven, his actions less smooth. Chuck stayed serene, his inhales steady, his shifts thrifty. He wasn't acting for the groups, wasn't appealing to lenses. He was just addressing the circumstance with the routine simplicity of one who devoted his existence to this. After a notably wild swing that unbalanced him, Tyler tripped lightly. It was the tiniest gap, a brief weakness most would miss, but Chuck noticed. With an action so rapid and fluid it appeared nearly relaxed, Chuck advanced and gave a single accurate tap, a gentle press with 2 digits to Tyler's side head. That's 2, he stated. The contact was soft. Yet, it sent the clear signal that if meant, Tyler would be down. Tyler reeled back, his look blending disbelief and increasing dread. For the first time, the situation's truth seemed to pierce his pride's shield. He was overmatched, and not slightly. The tavern had descended into a deep quiet, so total that only Tyler's deep inhales and the soft buzzes of the cooler behind the surface sounded. Nobody shifted. Nobody uttered. All sights fixed on the pair in the makeshift field center. This isn't. Tyler started, then halted, gulping deeply. This isn't actual battling. This is some trick. Chuck observed him firmly, his look neither victorious nor ridiculing, just there. No tricks in actual battling, only basics executed flawlessly. He returned to his impartial position, still not advancing to strike, still giving Tyler the chance to proceed or depart. Pride battled visibly with reason on Tyler's features, his prior smugness gone, replaced by confusion and an emerging grasp that he'd gravely erred this meeting. But to retreat now before all these observers with devices capturing his every action. One additional, Tyler stated, his tone tense but resolved. Best of three. Chuck tilted his head lightly, not fully a dip, but recognition of Tyler's decision. Tyler inhaled deeply, steadying with the training that had, beneath the display, made him a title holder. When he lifted his fists again, his position was more managed, his concentration sharper. Whatever else about him, he was a pro scrapper able to adapt and learn. He lacks knowledge of quitting. Old Joe whispered from his counter spot, but at minimum he's now serious. Mariah shook her head. Too delayed for that. Tyler neared more carefully now. His actions gauged, his assaults testing rather than dominating. It was a wiser plan, patient, strategic. But versus Chuck's years of knowledge, it only extended the unavoidable. For almost a minute, they engaged in an odd pattern, Tyler striking with growing desperate invention, Chuck dodging with serene effectiveness. The younger gave all he possessed, drawing from his full arsenal. Yet he couldn't achieve one solid contact. The observing group started grasping they weren't seeing a scrap so much as a showcase. A vivid teaching in the gap between triumphing matches and commanding a craft. Finally, Tyler overextended on a strong right cross. In the instant of unbalance after Chuck acted, it occurred so fast many later said they missed it. One instant, Tyler charged ahead. The next, he was rigid. Chuck's palm placed exactly at his throat's base, not clutching, not restricting, just there with clear command. And that's three, Chuck stated softly. For a pulse, neither shifted. Then with mild conclusion, Chuck withdrew, dropping his palm and resuming once more his relaxed position. Tyler remained static, his limbs gradually lowering beside, his look dazed. The truth of the event seemed to flow over him in stages. First doubt, then astonishment, then a sort of reluctant grasp. The tavern stayed quiet. The viewers held in the instant's pull. Even Tyler's band appeared unable to grasp what they'd seen, their usual flair left in facing such evident and thorough showcase. It was Rosa who ended the trance, advancing from the counter. I believe that's it here, she stated, her tone strong but gentle. Performance concluded, people. The group stayed rigid a moment more, trapped between the display just seen and Rosa's mild order. Then slowly the trance ended. Talks restarted in soft volumes. Devices lowered, though not before storing the capture that would soon circulate online. Spots dragged back into place with scraping noises that seemed oddly routine after what transpired. Tyler stood immobile centrally, his look lost between shame and insight. His group neared carefully, unsure how to handle this unforeseen result. Thanks, buddy, you okay? One attempted. Tyler didn't answer right away. His gaze stayed on Chuck, who had turned and was heading calmly to his counter seat. The lack of boasting, of festivity, seemed to impact Tyler deeper than any mockery could. What? Tyler eventually uttered, his tone unusually soft. What occurred? Nobody replied, nobody required to. The teaching had been given with greater clarity than terms could. Chuck returned to his seat, reopening his volume with the same leisurely accuracy, marking his every action. He didn't glance as Tyler and his group clustered in puzzled discussion. Their prior flair shrunk like a burst sphere. Old Joe neared Chuck, dipping respectfully. Long time since viewing such, he stated, his age features lined in a wise grin. Not since Saigon 72. Chuck looked up, familiarity sparking in his gaze. You served there, 3rd Marines. Joe offered a palm, which Chuck gripped solidly. Never imagined seeing you operate again. Some events stick. Some events you avoid, Chuck answered plainly. Across the space, Tyler had regained enough poise to shift, his features red with shame. His prior strut swapped for rigid, awkward actions. His group circled him guardedly, casting looks to Chuck, blending bitterness with unwilling admiration. Let's depart, Tyler grumbled, already aiming for the exit. But midway, he halted. His frame rose and dropped with a full inhale. And then, surprising all observing, he pivoted back. The tavern quieted anew as Tyler neared Chuck. His actions tentative but intentional. Chuck raised from his volume, meeting the younger's gaze sans anticipation. Tyler stood facing him, visibly wrestling with his words. Pride battled truth on his features. He began. Then paused, gulping hard. That wasn't anticipated. Chuck observed him firmly. It seldom is 3 contacts, Tyler stated, motioning vaguely. You could have, but I didn't. Chuck interjected mildly. That wasn't the goal. What was the goal then? The query came raw, true, perhaps the first completely unacted thing Tyler had uttered since arrival. Chuck pondered the query briefly before replying. The gap between seeming powerful and possessing power, he stated eventually. One demands viewers. The other doesn't. The terms lingered between, plain yet deep. Tyler stood static, taking them in, his look easing from guard to nearer comprehension. Eventually he dipped once, a minor motion but honest. Then, sans further terms, he turned and headed to the departure, his group following in puzzled quiet. As the entrance closed after, the tavern seemed to jointly release. The regular tavern sounds, ice tinkling in vessels, soft talks, the mild thump of cue balls restarted with reassuring routine. Mariah neared Chuck with a new vessel of warm liquid and fresh sachet. Complimentary, she stated, her gaze sparkling with scarcely held thrill. That was the most remarkable event I've witnessed. Chuck took the brew with a minor grin. Just a senior attempting a peaceful night, correct? Maria chuckled. Just a typical evening at Rosa's Roadhouse. But both knew otherwise. And as Chuck resumed his volume, drinking his brew in satisfied quiet. The account of the event was already circulating via messages and online shares, via thrilled calls and eager retellings, extending from this modest Texas tavern to the broader realm. The folklore would expand in recounting as folklore does, but the core truth would stay unaltered. Genuine power doesn't brag, it merely exists. The following dawn broke fresh and bright, the Texas light coloring the edge in shades of tangerine and yellow. Rosa's Roadhouse rested quiet in the morning glow, its pebbled lot vacant except for Rosa's aged truck and one bike near the entry. Inside, Rosa proceeded through her dawn tasks, balancing the till, cleaning areas, readying for the coming hours. The tavern wouldn't start for hours, but she'd always risen early. Mornings allowed her contemplation, framing the prior evening before a fresh day. And what an evening! She halted her tasks, resting on the surface as she remembered the occurrences in this room mere hours past. The conceited young title holder so assured of his edge. Chuck Norris, a soft aura until tested. And then Rosa shook her head in soft wonder. She'd known Chuck years, poured endless teas, discussed kin and shifting weather and optimal tomato growth in tough Texas dirt. Yet she'd never observed him operate prior. Last evening had never seen directly what hid under his modest surface. The gentle ring of the entry bell broke her musings. She raised her view, startled. The shut notice was evident, but folks didn't always heed. Apologies, we don't begin until she paused midway, awareness growing. Well, surprise me, Tyler. The Titan Kane stood at the threshold solo this time, in denim and plain shirt instead of the showy gear from before. His bearing differed too. Frame lowered, position less bold, look earnest rather than staged. Miss Delgado, he stated, his tone softer than recalled. Regret disturbing you. No, you're shut. Rosa examined him briefly, assessing his honesty, then gestured to the counter. Brew's new. Take a seat. Tyler advanced to the surface, settling on a seat, not Chuck's, she observed, but 2 away. A tiny sign of regard, maybe unwitting. She filled him a cup of brew and set it ahead, sans comment. He cupped it but didn't sip right away. I aim to express regret, he stated after a bit, his view on the hot fluid, for last evening, for my conduct in your venue. Rosa lifted a brow, truly astonished. Didn't anticipate your return. Tyler gave a minor self-mocking grin. Didn't plan to return, but he faded, seeking terms. Couldn't cease pondering it, about the occurrence, about his words. Rosa dipped, comprehending. Chuck impacts folks that way. Is he? Tyler scanned the vacant tavern. Is he present? I figured perhaps he's departed, Rosa stated. Left post you last evening. He avoids lingering in spots long nowadays. Disappointment crossed Tyler's features, swiftly hidden. Correct. Naturally, he sipped his brew, collecting thoughts. I just had queries for him. I wager you do, Rosa stated, her tone gentle. She examined the young scrapper closer. Now, the mark over his brow had deepened overnight, the wound beneath crusting. But another mark showed this dawn, less seen, but more meaningful. A grounding, a break in arrogance, a shield. You know, she stated, cleaning the surface with slow, purposeful shifts. Chuck's visited here years. Never stirs issues, never seeks notice. Just rests, sips his tea, reads his volumes. Tyler dipped hearing. I queried him once why this spot. No his reply. Rosa halted her tasks, recalling he stated, it's the most peaceful tavern in Texas. Not the ritziest. Not the most selective, the most peaceful. She lightly shook her head. Took time to grasp his meaning. Tyler stayed quiet, mulling this. After a bit, he queried, what did he intend? Rosa examined him, pondering if he was prepared for the response. Something in his look, a fresh openness, maybe persuaded her. He intended genuine power, avoids clamor, she stated. Avoids lights or lenses or crowds chanting your title. It resides in peaceful instants when unobserved. She wrapped the surface for stress. That's what you observed last evening. Not merely method or ability or knowledge, though he possesses ample of each. You observed a life of silent training and use. Tyler took this in, his look reflective. I've battled pro for 6 years, he stated eventually. Claimed my initial title 2 years past. Last evening was the first I've felt, he hunted the proper term, surpassed, not merely defeated. Something deeper than that. Grounding can be a boon, Rosa suggested, if permitted. Tyler dipped gradually, his digits outlining the cup's edge. My entire path? I've been advised to be noisier, more provocative, to stir drama, develop my image, spark talk. A note of resentment entered his tone. My handler says folks don't fun to view scrappers now. They fun to view characters. Perhaps Rosa conceded. But at what expense? The query lingered between, heavy with meaning. Tyler didn't reply immediately, appearing to consider it. I keep pondering those 3 contacts, he stated soon. How simple for him. How mild. He raised his view, meeting Rosa's directly first time. He could have injured me, floored me before all, but avoided. That's not him, Rosa stated plainly. Who is he? Tyler queried. True interest replacing his prior flair. I know the folklore, the films, the jokes. But last evening, he shook his head, still working to grasp the event. Last evening felt like encountering someone entirely distinct. Rosa pondered her response. Chuck would state he's merely a person who devoted life improving at something meaningful to him, she stated eventually. Not for acclaim or funds or renown, though he's experienced each. But since command has worth, she topped Tyler's Bruce Sands request. A sign of welcome that noted his shift from outsider to visitor. The Chuck Norris you encountered last evening is the authentic one. The peaceful individual who studies thought and sips tea, and handles all from stars to servers identically. And the one who could down a title scrapper sans effort, Tyler added with a wry grin, holding the initial trace of true wit. That as well, Rosa concurred, echoing the grins. Though he wouldn't phrase it so. Tyler grew quiet, sipping his brew and taking in this fresh view. The dawn glow intensified, pouring through panes to cast elongated golden shapes over the timber floor. From exterior came bird songs, a far truck's grumble, routine sounds seeming to anchor the remarkable talk inside. What to do with this? Tyler queried eventually. The query plain but deep. Not just on last evening but the route ahead. About the type of individual and scrapper he aimed to be. Rosa observed him reflectively. That's your choice, she stated. But I think you know already or you wouldn't return this dawn. Tyler dipped slowly. Recognition emerging in his look. I have a repeat bout in 3 weeks, he stated. Been claiming I'll crush my rival. He air-quoted the term, separating from the loud speech. Been sharing ridicule online, creating buzz. And now, Rosa urged now, Tyler inhaled deeply. Now I consider perhaps less time claiming best and more time becoming it. A minor grin touched Rosa's mouth. Seems you grasped the message. Tyler completed his brew and rose, reaching for his holder. Rosa dismissed. Complimentary, she stated. View it as a proper welcome to the roadhouse this time. Tyler appreciated with a dip, carrying true regard. He aimed to depart, then halted at the entrance, glancing back. If he returns, he stated. Would you convey something? Sure, convey. Tyler paused, selecting terms cautiously. Convey, I'm focusing on the gap between seeming powerful and possessing power. Rosa grinned. I'll convey, though I sense he knows. With a last dip. Tyler exited into the dawn glow, shutting the entrance gently after. Rosa observed through the pane as he headed to his vehicle. Not the showy racer from last evening, she noted, but a simple car. His bearing differed today. His actions more anchored, not full change. Such requires time, but perhaps a start, as she continued her dawn prep. Rosa pondered how many existences Chuck Norris had influenced over years, often with few terms. His force lay not solely in bodily skills, striking as they were, but in his skill to show truth via deed, to instruct via model rather than lecture. That she concluded was a unique power. The type that lasts post-bodily skill wanes. The type that alters lives sans seeking praise for the shift. Exterior, the Texas light rose higher, vowing another hot day. Inside Rosa's roadhouse, the routine dawn task proceeded, the area displaying no trace of the remarkable events witnessed hours prior. But something had changed. Something unseen yet clear. A teaching had been given and taken. A narrative had started its path to folklore. And in the peaceful wake, the real effect of the transpired was just starting to develop. By late afternoon, Rosa's roadhouse had shifted again. The dawn's peace yielded to the known harmony of a Texas tavern active, vessels ringing, laughs erupting, twangy tunes streaming from the selector, the patterned tap of cue balls colliding. Yet something this evening felt altered, infused with a faint vigor absent before. News had circulated. The tavern was extra full for a Friday, packed with interested locals and visitors who'd caught whispers of last evening's clash. Some arrived hoping repeat, others merely to occupy the area of occurrence. They requested beverages and posed queries in soft tones, peeking to the counter's end where Chuck Norris had rested. That seat stayed notably vacant, though no label held it. Folks just understood via unspoken rule it wasn't for taking. Behind the surface, Maria operated swiftly, handling requests while answering repeated queries. No, he's absent tonight. Yes, it occurred. No, the scrapper missed every contact. 3 moments, more like 3 contacts. Unaware when he returns. Rosa navigated the group with trained speed, providing beverages and meals, keeping order while noting the prior evening's effects. She saw old Joe and his pals at their regular spot, encircled by an uncommonly focused group. As Joe narrated the clash with seasoned tale skill, and then Chuck merely rested there, serene as calm liquid, while this eager scrapper orbited him like a starving predator. Joe was stating, his seasoned palms outlining the scene airborne. Didn't lift his fists, didn't position, just observed with those gazes that notice all and reveal zero. His hearers bent ahead, enchanted. Among them 2 youths Rosa knew as beginner scrappers from the area M&A center. Their looks blending doubt and wonder. Then the title holder acted quick as a biting serpent. Sequence ideal as in any championship bout. But Joe halted for effect. Chuck wasn't present. Shifted like he knew punch locations pre-throw. That's impossible. One youth objected. Nobody's that rapid, especially his years. Joe locked the youth with firm stare. Wasn't speed, kid. Was comprehension, seeing plan pre-deed. He rapped his side head. Battling's not body only. It's mind. And Chuck Norris holds a true commander's mind. The doubter quieted. Mulling this, Rosa proceeded her circuits, passing a spot where college youths gathered round a device. Viewing footage with sound low. Replay it, 1 pressed. Note his steps here. On the tiny display, a unsteady faint lit capture displayed the clash from prior evening. Despite quality, Chuck's serene accuracy showed, as did Tyler's increasing annoyance. The segment ended with one of the 3 contacts, the second, Rosa noted, and the astonished responses of viewers. That's reached like 500K watches already, another youth stated. And it's single view. At minimum 3 more footages from varied spots. My relative practices at Tyler Kane's center, a young female added. Says Tyler halted all public events next week. Just training, no press, no supporters, no interruptions. Rosa advanced, a minor grin on her lips. The effects extended farther than imagined. At the counter's far end, a high man in formal attire signaled her. She unrecognized him, not regulars, but something in his sleek look and scheming stare alerted her. Miss Delgado. He queried as she neared. Owner here, she dipped. Cautious, that's me, Alan Mercer. He provided a card, which she avoided taking immediately. I speak for Apex Fight Promotions. Rosa lifted a brow awaiting continuation. I'm keen to talk with Mr. Norris, he stated, his manner smoothly pro. Our firm wishes to explore possible chances from last evening's show. Chuck's absent, Rosa answered bluntly. Yes, evident. Mercer's grin stayed set, but I grasp, he's frequent. I'd like to leave my details for his return. Rosa examined the man, noting his pricey timepiece, groomed nails, the eager spark in his gaze that viewed profits where she viewed a personal instant turned public sans Chuck's blame. What chances? She queried, though aware of the reply. Mercer's grin broadened. Display bouts, maybe commentary positions. There's notable public curiosity and more Mr. Norris action, especially post-viral footages. We think this could benefit both. Rosa eventually took his card, but only to set it purposefully on the surface. Upward, Chuck avoids displays, she stated strongly, and he didn't act last evening for exposure. Still, Mercer continued, there's obvious demand. Surely Mr. Norris would at least converse. What Chuck desires, Rosa cut in, is his seclusion. And while in my venue, that's what he receives. She pushed the card back to Mercer with one digit. Thanks for interest, but decline. Mercer's grin tightened, pro-battling irritation. At least relay my details. He attempted again. Let him choose. Rosa pondered, then dipped once. I'll mention your visit. She yielded, though both knew the note would include her view of his aims. Mercer, grasping this was the top he'd gained, took his card and ended his beverage. Pleasure meeting Miss Delgado, he stated, rising to exit. If Mr. Norris rethinks, we're ready to be very liberal. I'll note that too. Rosa answered, her tone clarifying her thought on his liberal. As Mercer headed to the exit, Maria approached Rosa. Scavengers circling already, she noted. Won't be final. Rosa exhaled. Fame's odd. Chuck spent years stepping from it, and one peaceful evening in a tavern returns him to focus. Think he knew it occur? Maria queried, truly interested. When he rose to confront that scrapper. Rosa pondered the query. I don't believe he considered outcomes. She stated eventually. He just addressed what faced him. That's Chuck in the instant. Not planning ahead for gain. Unlike our suit friend, Maria remarked, watching Mercer's exit. Unlike most, Rosa amended softly. The evening advanced, the tavern louder as more arrived. Pulled by the circulating tale, Rosa found herself pondering the vacant seat at the counter's end, wondering if Chuck would return soon, or if undesired focus would deter him. Just past 9. The entrance opened and a brief hush covered the group, all heads turning hopefully. But it wasn't Chuck Norris entering. It was a mature female with wary gaze and known traits who headed straight to the counter. Diana, Rosa welcomed, surprised. Deanna had departed suddenly prior evening post Tyler's harsh remark. Didn't expect your return quick. Deanna gave a minor grin. Heard quite the display after my exit. That's one description, Rosa conceded, pouring Deanna's regular light wine sans request. Regret what occurred. That scrapper overstepped. Diana dismissed the regret. Not your responsibility. But her grin widened a bit. I admit, not regretful missing his night's rest. Both shared a knowing glance. A instant of soft content at fairness done. I viewed one footage, Diana proceeded, her tone lower. Received from 3 separate pals. Couldn't trust it was the identical man who rests here softly with his tea. She shook her head amazed. All this period, and unaware. That's Chuck's preference, Rosa stated, cleaning the surface. The peace, the obscurity as much as possible. Diana dipped, sipping her wine reflectively. Makes you ponder how many we encounter daily, unaware of their abilities, their depths. The note lingered between, deep in its plainness around them. The tavern hummed with vigor, folks sharing accounts, adding details, speculating next. But in that tiny counter space a greater truth was noted. He'll return, Rosa stated with soft surety. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week. But Chuck avoids letting others' hopes control his deeds. If the clamor persists, Diana queried. Rosa grinned, recalling Chuck's steady aura, his action thrift, his skill to handle turmoil while keeping center. Then he'll remain himself regardless, she stated. That's Master's way. Later that evening, as the group thinned and end neared, Rosa stood in the clash's space. The floor showed no sign. The air retained no hint of the clashed forces. Yet something remained. Not bodily leftover, but an echo of revealed truth. In that routine timber patch, conceit met its equal in soft skill. Display yielded to essence, and a teaching was given that would resonate long post last patron departed, and last vessel cleaned and stored. Rosa peeked to the vacant seat at the counter's end, a grin touching her mouth. Most peaceful tavern in Texas, she whispered to self. Not this evening's. But she knew that wasn't Chuck's intent. The peace he pursued wasn't sound levels, but a greater calm, the type from knowing precisely who you are and your stance, regardless observers. That peace couldn't be upset by clamor or groups or viral footages. It was movable, independent, as integral to Chuck Norris as his famed abilities. And that, Rosa pondered as she readied to end the evening, was perhaps the key teaching, one missed by viral footages and thrilled retellings, but shown clearer than any combat method. Genuine power brings its peace wherever. 3 weeks elapsed. Summer gave to autumn's initial hint, and the viral instant at Rosa's Roadhouse waned from online focus. Yet, In the modest Texas area, faint shifts remained. At Rosa's, trade stayed stronger, with guests still aiming to spot the icon or stand where the clash happened. The seat at the counter's end, Chuck's seat, stayed notably empty most evenings, though unmarked. On this October Wednesday evening, the tavern hummed with easy activity. Rosa operated smoothly behind the counter, providing beverages and chatting. She'd spent weeks declining fight organizers, journalists, and seekers, guarding Chuck's seclusion as sacred. As she provided all to a hauler, Rosa's focus caught the corner screen. A sports feed displayed a promo for an MMA bout, and in this evening's primary event, holding title holder Tyler the Titan Kane returns post his debated viral instant last month. Kane has been unusually silent leading to this repeat, avoiding press and curbing his typical vivid notes. The display showed Tyler at a media event, attired plainly sans usual flair. His manner changed, concentrated, earnest, pro. "I'm here solely to battle," Tyler stated. "My rival merits my regard and complete focus." When a journalist shouted on the Chuck Norris event, Tyler's look flashed complex before steadying. "No note," he stated eventually. "Some teachings are personal, even public." Rosa grinned lightly as she turned. The effects persisted. The entrance opened, allowing the cool evening air and one patron. Chuck Norris entered softly, attired as ever in basic garb, denim-colored top, worn footwear. He advanced with leisurely accuracy, his aura neither seeking notice nor evading. Some patrons noted his arrival, prodding mates and murmuring. Others, newcomers unaware of his meaning, scarcely glanced. Chuck headed to the counter, to the seat unofficially his. He settled with a minor dip to Rosa. "Evening, Rosa." "Chuck," she answered warmly. "Tea, please." She prepped as he liked sachet first. Liquid, not fully hot. A tiny plate for used sachet. As she placed the vessel ahead, she noted the volume he'd set on the surface, same from Clash evening. A marker showing near end. "Good text," she queried, gesturing to it. Chuck's gaze lined lightly at edges. Marcus Aurelius, Roman leader, wrote on responsibility, integrity, and managing controllables. He contacted the faded cover. "Valuable to review occasionally." "Been peaceful sans you," Rosa stated, then corrected with minor grin. "Well, peaceful in meaningful ways. Heard opposite for a period. Had various visiting," she affirmed. Fight organizers, journalists, admirers, even Tyler Kane himself. The dawn after this drew Chuck's notice. He raised one brow lightly up. "Came solo," Rosa detailed. "No band, no lenses. Aimed to regret his actions." She halted, seemed truly impacted. "Requested I convey a note if you returned." Chuck awaited patiently. Said convey he's focusing on the gap between seeming powerful and possessing power. Chuck took this, his look reflective. After a bit he dipped once, a plain recognition, carrying neither pride nor rejection, just soft note of another's path. "Saw him on screen just," Rosa proceeded. "He's battling tonight, holding title. Seems altered. Less speech, more concentration." "Good," Chuck stated plainly. "That's proper." They entered easy quiet. Chuck sipping tea, Rosa tending others. The tavern continued its evening pattern around. Vessels ringing, talks flowing, twangy tunes offering soft backdrop. Later Rosa returned focus to the screen. The MMA bout progressed. Tyler holding title versus resolute challenger. She raised sound lightly. On display, Tyler acted with concentrated strength. His approach clearly changed. Absent was the flair and bout taunts. Instead was trained accuracy and action thrift, a planned patience new to his method. "We're viewing a changed Kane this evening," one observer noted. "Less show, more essence. He's not entertaining. He's centered on results." Rosa peeked at Chuck, observing with soft curiosity. His look revealed zero, but she sensed awareness, a note of something meaningful developing. On display, Tyler performed a ideally timed sequence, creating a gap. Instead of pressing with max force as prior, he displayed notable control, awaiting ideal instant before giving an accurate strike, ending the bout neatly. The venue burst in cheers. Tyler's festivity was muted. No parading, no ridicule. He aided his rival up, shared respectful hold, and noted the group with simple lifted palm. When questioned, the query was expected. "Tyler, many claim your change started post-viral meet with Chuck Norris. Would you claim that event altered your method?" Tyler pondered carefully before replying. "What occurred that evening taught something key," he stated eventually. "I've devoted my path being the loudest, thinking that equaled strongest. It's not." He halted. "Genuine power avoids announcement, it just exists. That's my focus now." Rosa silenced the screens, turning to see Chuck observing with same serene look. But there was a faint warmth in his gaze. Not pride but soft content at seeing development. Seems your teaching rooted. Rosa noted. Chuck lightly shook his head. Not my teaching, he amended gently. All I did was provide a reflection that shifted his existence. He shifted his own existence. Chuck answered. The instant he selected clear sight over desired sight, he sipped tea. That's the tougher route, the valuable one. As end neared, Rosa started her tasks. Cleaning the counter and balancing the till. Will you stay a while? She queried Chuck as he readied to depart. He pondered the query, a minor grin touching his mouth, for a period until peace beckons again. Your seat awaits, she assured. Whenever needed. Chuck set tea payment on the surface. As he aimed to exit, he halted. You know, I once stated I picked this spot as the most peaceful tavern in Texas. But that wasn't complete truth. Rosa lifted a brow, interested. I picked it since spots like this where regular folks meet for regular instance, that's real existence, not in arenas or lights or viral captures. His gaze lined lightly. The value is in the routine, Rosa always was. With that, he dipped farewell and advanced to the entrance. Every patron observed his departure, some staring openly, others feigning ignore. He noted none and all, carrying his soft aura through the space like a firm light. As the entrance shut after, Rosa stood briefly in the calming quiet. She knew the folklore would grow in his absence, added in retellings, amplified in recalls. But the core truth would stay unchanged. That one evening in a routine roadhouse in Texas, genuine power had shown itself not via control or display, but via training, control, and the soft surety from knowing precisely who you are. Exterior, Chuck Norris raised to the vast star field above. He grinned lightly, not for lenses, not for viewers, but self only. Then he departed, leaving Rosa's roadhouse, taking the peace that was not noise absence, but calm presence. Behind, the accounts would proceed. The viral captures viewed millions more. The interested would continue arriving, but the core of the happened the instant when conceit met equal in soft skill, would stay pure, untouched by surrounding clamor, like truth. It required no boost, no confirmation, no viewers to validate. It merely was. Coming, we have 2 more remarkable narratives awaiting. Just select the picture you wish to view and it will guide you. If you like this footage, ensure to join, it would support greatly.